Welcome, world, to Life, Love, and Wellness Global, a worldwide wellness movement. I am Reverend Sandy Rogers, and as the creator of this historic event, it is my pleasure to welcome you. We come together to bring you this historic event. We have practitioners, holistic practitioners. We have medical doctors. We have spiritual individuals. This event is so lovingly dedicated to my mother, Mrs. Barbara Dean Brown. And my mother taught me like 40 plus years ago about the importance and the meaning behind herbs. And she would always say, we don't know what they putting in those pills, so you better not, get hooked on prescription drugs. And so we listened to Mom, but not all of us paid attention. My sister, bless her heart, was diagnosed recently thereafter with asthma, and she was prescribed prednisone, which is a very powerful steroid. And my sister actually got hooked on steroids, like someone out on the street kind of hooked, like on heroin or crack or something like that. And so my mom and my sister are both on the other side, living in the other dimension, but they're upholding me, and this is dedicated to their memory. So we don't want to come and make you change your mind about what you're doing. We just want to provide information to you, something different, so that you have options to choose from, so that you're not stuck. Because the environment that we now live in, the fast foods, the toxins in the air that we breathe and in the water that we drink, and the processed foods, and all of that is causing havoc on this precious body temple. So God created our bodies to heal themselves, but they can only heal themselves when they're fed and they're nourished and they're stress-free. And so the 60 or so or more experts that we have are bringing you this worldwide wellness movement in an attempt to share their testimonies and their information with you. So we have from age 14 on up. I don't even know what the oldest age is. I think 88 or something. So you see, that's a wide range of knowledge that we're bringing you. And so we hope that you come and that you get all the knowledge that you need to affect a positive change on your life, and share this with others. It's free, it's online, and so we're just so thankful that you decided to be a part of our listening community, the viewing community, and we certainly appreciate you for giving us your time of day and your energy and your efforts to being with us and to being a part of this historic event. We have pulled together people of color for you, by you, right? So we want to make sure that you understand that we too, melanated people with color, can enjoy, practice, and participate in some of these modalities that others have been doing for centuries, and that is pretty new to our community. So we talk about Qigong, we talk about meditation, yoga, spiritual work from a different perspective than religion. So we talk about the spirituality aspect. We talk about abuse in the families. We talk about all kinds of subjects because we know that in our communities there are layers and layers and layers and layers of stuff that we never talk about that's causing a negative effect on our bodies and its healing process. So we address it, whatever it is, and we hope that you will benefit from the many experts that we have, and that you walk away with lots of knowledge and lots of new information, and that you become fully empowered to share information with others. So thank you for being with us. We love you and we bless you, and we look forward to doing this again. But thanks for being here with the first one. We appreciate you.
Life, love, and wellness. Life, love, and wellness.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Karen Kimbrough, and I am just a wonderful spirit who loves life and lives it to the fullest. And I want all around me to love life and live it to the fullest. I have life coaching certifications. I'm a ministerial student right now. But globally, I really just embrace life fully and would like to have everybody around me embrace life. My mom lived in New York City, and I lived in Atlanta, Georgia. And mom was in the apartment she was in 40 years until I moved her to Atlanta with me. And it was really interesting moving her from her apartment in New York to my home in Atlanta. And I was kind of trying to make a decision whether I should move her to my home or should I go to New York to be with her in her familiar surroundings. But when I thought about the community support that I had been gone from New York for many years at that time. So I really didn't have a good support community for myself. And where I was in Atlanta, I had a ton of support with my church, with my community affiliations. So it was a wiser decision for me to bring her to Atlanta for care. I also have an older brother, and both of us had made a decision because he lived in Florida at the time, and we decided to bring her here so she would be with me and close to him. In doing this, at first I saw that there were some kind of changes in her behavior, and we had some really close family friends kind of looking in on her in New York. But the first time that I really considered it, she really wasn't ready, and I really wasn't ready. It's like, for me, honestly, I'm not sure if you're ever really ready for this kind of an assignment, as some people like to call it. But the second time, it's like I had to be ready, and I knew that I was going to have to do something. So what I did was I started asking for help. And one of the first things I did was I kind of looked around for facilities and places that I might need to help support me in the community for senior care, for elder care, for senior services. And I live in Cobb County, Georgia, and in that county, there were quite a bit of senior services available. There were daycare. I did not know that they had adult daycare until I ventured into this. And there's also different levels of living life for people who just need to have some community around them. They may not cook or clean for themselves as much, but they just wanted to have some community. And then there's going even further into like memory care, and then they have the rehabilitation centers along the way. So there's several levels of care that are available for people on our life journey in the aging. Mm-hmm.
And so you said in the beginning you needed to make an adjustment.
Yes.
You couldn't commit. And so I'm sure that's quite normal for people,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a major step.
Mm-hmm.
And would in your 2020 vision now,
Mm-hmm.
was that not the best thing that you could have done?
I'm not sure, because I in hindsight, in 2020, working on myself and some of the things that happened to me along the way, during the journey and after the journey, I didn't take care of myself as well as I took care of my mom.
Okay.
So, yeah, there were some decisions to be made. I mean, financial decisions. There were career decisions to be made, because I lived on my own and in my own home, and I worked a job to maintain my bills and everything, and to take on an elder or anybody with a full-time job, knowing that the elder's memory was declining, I wasn't sure how to handle it. Let me just put it that way for a moment. So I did not know everything that I was about to embark on, but one thing I knew, that it was mom. Mom took care of me all my life, and I made a promise to her when I was about 11 that if and when you need me, I would be there. And when after mom's transition, and I was talking to different people to work through some of the life challenges and physical challenges that I had along the way, they were like, "Did you know you honestly have been preparing to take care of your mom since you were 11?" And I was like, "Oh wow, wow." When I think about it, I have, because career-wise, the kind of jobs I took, I had steady 9 to 5 career jobs in one particular office here or another particular office. But then I started taking projects, things that may have been short term, may not have kept me in one place, allowed me to travel and see the world, because mom always said, travel and see the world while you can. So if you can get paid to do it, do it. I know I wasn't in the military, but there are a lot of professional careers that you can do, and travel is a passion. My mom and dad took me to Nassau in the Bahamas when I was like 11 years old or something, so I got the travel bug thing. Or 6th grade, however old you are in 6th grade. I just remember it was 6th grade.
Right. Now, and the reason why I was asking is I'm sure that perhaps some people make a decision to be a caregiver and not really have given it any thought. And so that's what I was alluding to with the other question. But you answered it very well, because this is, even though we understand that we all are going to transition from out of this physical plane into another place, we're not always prepared to take on that role or to assist somebody on that journey. So,
Right. Yep, and my mom actually took care of my dad. This is crazy. My mom got ill around 41. She was a LPN nurse, licensed practical nurse, and she had a blood clot that basically manifested into several illnesses that kept her from going back to work full time. My dad was a motorman, and he worked until he retired at 57, and 3 months later he passed. So it was just like he was probably sick for over a year, and we didn't know. I was already away from home. I graduated from college and was doing my own thing in Boston, living and working. And so my mom, she had her husband, and he was kind of looking after her. Then she had to flip and look after him, and then he made his transition a whole lot sooner. Everybody thought she was going to go first, but she actually she made it through till 76.
Wow.
So it was just amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
35 years after.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
Your learnings that you gathered as you went through this process. So how are you sharing that with the world?
It's funny that you asked that, because I am one of these people who, when I go through the situations, I ask, okay, God, is this lesson for me, or is this lesson for me to share with some other folks, or is it for both of us? So having a education nature, teaching nature, a teaching spirit, I started sharing in a blog. The blog was, I just kind of started doing a caregiver's blog. And it was things that I wish I knew as I was embarking on this journey. If I had a few different situations, I would share them, because a project kind of came to me called the Caregiver Survival Guide, because I ended up in ER 2 times while I was working with taking care of my mom. And one of those times in particular, I had a really good friend who traveled on business a lot, and she would call and check in and say, how's mom doing? Is mom okay? Everything all right with y'all? And one of those phone calls, I had to say, well, we're at the hospital. She said, what's wrong with mom? Like, it's not mom this time, it's me.
Wow.
So being that I survived that situation, thank God, that I have decided to share that you have to take care of yourself first. And a lot of people who fly, or even if you don't fly, you've heard the story. If there's turbulence in the air and the oxygen mask drops, put your oxygen mask on before you tend to your children or anybody else who may need your assistance, because you need your breath before you can help somebody else have their breath. So the breath is important.
Yeah. And that was one of your major key learnings during that process?
That was one of my key learning experiences during that process. And so I also was just trying to think, how can it make it simple? Because I had never done this. I don't have any children, so I never really had to take care of anybody but myself. And to take care of another human being full time, 24/7, was a big learning curve for me. And while I'm working as a career person. So I just started asking people around me, have you ever taken care of anybody? Do you know anybody who's taking care of anybody? Do you have any suggestions? You know, because when I've gone through other experiences in life, I've always been told to ask, or, you know, just ask. If you ask, people will share. And people started sharing, and I started getting flooded with information. I got so much information, I was overwhelmed. And fortunately, a good friend's mom was like, you need some help? But what do you need? I'm like, well, I asked for information, and I got so much information I don't know what to do with it. So this friend's mom happened to be an educator, so she was like, send it to me and I'll organize it for you, and I'll give you the names, addresses, break it down in categories and things that I think you might be able to work with and stuff. So it's just amazing the kind of help that just came. Church members, even you, Sandy, you used to go when mom was in the assisted living facility. I couldn't always make it there. And one thing I learned dealing with that situation is people who had people coming through were taken better care of than people who had no people coming through, because folks didn't feel like they had as high a level of accountability. So, I mean, I really appreciated that, especially being the only sibling here. I had other family members that could stop in periodically, but the majority of mom's family was in Missouri, and so not even in New York or not in Atlanta. So, they would come periodically, but it's the community we make right where we are.
I think that's important to have to share that with the audience, because there are situations where a person is by themselves, and I can just imagine that has to be like just you're overloaded with responsibility, not understanding how to share it, or that you will get the help from friends. Yours is a very good had a very good ending, and a very impactful caring from people that was able to relate to you. What advice would you give somebody that does not have that type of support from their friends or community?
It's funny that you asked that question, because I get asked questions similar to that pretty regularly, and I tell folks, don't be surprised if the help that you expect to have from your immediate relations, blood or not, don't come through. But people who are just connected by spirit or just connected by an association, because I'm also thinking of a young lady I had just say, she called me from one of my social organizations. She was like, Karen, I know you're tired. I can't get home. My parent is being taken care of by somebody in the community. Can I come and sit with your mom? And I'm just like, wow. We weren't even really social friends. We were just kind of acquaintances. So be open and know that everything that you need is right there. It just may not come from where you think it's going to come from. It's funny that you say it's not funny, but I know Bertice Berry says something about life gets so painful, and even the absurdity that you have to laugh at. And as I was going through my process, it's like, learn to find the funny. One of my things was learn to find the funny. But yes, I got overwhelmed. Did I get resentful? Yes, because I was looking for help from certain people, certain places, And when it didn't come, I took it personal. But hindsight 2020, doing self-work, it's like, Karen, it wasn't about you. It was about these individuals and their relation to your mother, and the fact that because they're relations, they think they might have similar mortality or similar issues. And looking at your mom, they might have felt like they were looking in a mirror or something that could have been in their future. So they didn't want to deal with it. They couldn't deal with it. They did not know how to deal with it. So that's why they just didn't come to you when you expected them to come to you. When I was going through it, I was just going through it. And so I didn't get that insight until I started doing personal work on myself, dealing around resentment, even with my mom. As much as I love my mom, it's just like, wow, could we have planned something better? But you don't know.
Excellent.
You don't know.
Yeah. But that's such a wonderful observation for you to share, because I've talked to individuals that, depending on certain circumstances that occur, they're mad at God, but then they feel guilty because they're mad at God. So for you to share that, it's human. Like your whole world was turned upside down, and even though you have been preparing since the age of 11, there was like no preparation, right?
Yeah, truly. I mean, because it's a financial, it's huge financial, it's huge time, it's adjusting your life. I mean, from a carefree single for the most part, go to work because I have to be a responsible adult to take care of my household, and at the time, going to work was how I did that. I had started a few little businesses here and there, to see if I could get out the work-a-day rat race, as we say. But basically, I was going to work and then coming home. And when I started taking care of my mom, the full-time job I had came to an end. And so I was like, wow, I'm here Mom needs more care. My schedule just freed up to provide that more care, but I still need to have some kind of income coming in. So I started looking for part-time jobs to kind of work with her schedule and stuff, because I still had to sustain not only myself, but then I also had to sustain her, because I kept her myself in my own home for the first year and a half. I had this 6 years, last 6 years of her life. She lived with me, and between me and then assisted living, when I just couldn't take it anymore. Physically, I couldn't do it anymore.
Oh, I get it. Seriously, I mean, I understand that. And a number of years ago, as a supervisor at a telephone company in California, I had an employee, model employee, just very advanced in her knowledge of the job, was very professional, up for a promotion. And then she started missing work and missing work and missing work, where her mom was keeping her up at night because her mom would walk out the door. And she'd notice that the door was open, and she'd have to go and look for her. I had to sit her down and say, there's a possibility you need to look for some help, for a facility that could house her. Otherwise, you're going to be without a job.
Yeah.
And without a job, how are you going to continue? And so those are really, really important aspects of life when you're dealing with that caregiving situation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I need a pause for a tissue.
Sure. So we paused for a moment for Karen to collect herself, and so I'm asking her to share the emotional place where she went as we were discussing the caregiving of her mom. And so, Karen, if you feel good with it, I would like for you to address that to the audience.
Well, it's been 8 years, September this year, because 2010 she made her transition, and it's amazing. I didn't understand the word depression. I just knew I wanted to sleep wasn't really hungry, didn't really want to socialize. And Spirit brought a person in my life who happened to be a professional counselor. And I'm just like, wow, 3,000 miles away from my home. But we talked on the phone pretty regularly. And she's like, you're depressed. I'm like, I'm not depressed. I just don't want to eat, don't want to do this, don't want to do that. So she's like, you got a doctor's appointment. And when are you going to see your physician or something like that? So I had a doctor's appointment coming up. I made a doctor's appointment. Had to take some like 10 question quiz. He said, yeah, you probably need to go talk to somebody. And I'm just like, wow. So, I mean, it's Mom. She birthed me. I lived in her body for 9 months. So it's still a little hard in some spots. But I'm glad I did some work. I'm glad people came in my life to let me know it's okay, whatever I'm feeling, to feel it. The first times that I decided to go away, I was scared to leave my mom alone, but I love water. I just went up 20 miles away from my house to one of the lakes in the area, and I stayed in a cabin. And it just so happened my cell phone did not work, and which was wonderful. But I gave the help that I was paying to come into the house, gave them my backup cousin's number and another family member, and so they were trying to reach out because Mom happened to walk out the door and lock the or the caregiver walked out and locked herself out the house. Now this lady was in her 60s, I believe, at the time. And she didn't have a key to the house. I don't know, or she did not have the key with her when she walked out the house, because she had to have the key to the house. She was there for the weekend and stuff. And, people were trying to reach me, and I didn't know till after the fact. But when it's a little scary, but it's not scary, because thank God that the person that was looking after my mom had looked after one of my other friends' parents, both mother and father. And she was a spry 60-something, so she climbed over the neighbor's deck to get to my deck to get in the house. Because fortunately, she had left the back deck open so they could get some air and stuff. But Mom was just in the house jamming to the blues. I know AARP. They have a whole section on caregivers. I did not know about AARP when I was going through my process of caregiving. Because of my mom was going through Alzheimer's dementia, the Alzheimer's Association was an organization that was brought to my attention that had tons of resources and information. Also, the last full-time job assignment that I had was at a workforce development agency that was steeped in community assistance for people and families, people out of work, families, and there were so many different resources there. The United Way 211 number, they have resources, and I found a lot of this information at the job that I was working. And if you've heard of Maddie's Call, the Maddie's Call in Georgia is like an Amber Alert for children, but it's an Amber Alert, for lack of a better term, for adults, aging adults, and it's about the different agencies that get together. I worked with the daughter of Maddie, and so it's just like everything happens for a reason. I mean, even me just being at that particular organization at the time that I was working there, it wasn't necessarily something that I was directly looking for. I think it was one of my transitional jobs, I say, based on some of the different career directions that I've gone, because I've made a few dips and changes in career for my own sanity and also just to fit my life and just to see what things were about. I wasn't one of those 30-year and out kind of people. That's what my mom used to tell me. Truth be told, technology has been one of the bigger parts of my life, And there are some companies that I worked for that don't even exist anymore. So I couldn't have done 30 years and out with them. So for me personally, Alzheimer's Association was a big thing. Now, from being an advocate for people who are caregivers, I recommend AARP. And then if the person that you're working with, the loved one that you're caring for, has anything going on, just kind of look to see if there are supporting organizations for the situation that's happening in their life.
Well, thank you very much. You are such a fantastic, loving daughter, and I know your mom is smiling down on you still. So thank you, Karen Kimbrough.
Thank you, Sandy. It's been a pleasure.